Welcome back to the Fight Scene podcast. Cam and I are back. We've taken a little layoff. Well, it's been a bit busy as of late, but we are back.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit to talk about. Obviously, we did miss talking about things like the White House card and all of that sort of stuff. But I think there's been enough chat about that in social media. Obviously, a little bit of a disappointment with some of the fights. Obviously, co-main and main event's going to be unreal, but sort of Bo Nickel versus Carl Dorcas, bit of an odd one. Diego Lopez against Steve Garcia, going to be a good fight, but at the same time, like, also just kind of odd matchmaking, I feel. But anyways, we don't have to talk about that too much because we do have UFC London to break down. The thing I will say, first of all, is I feel justified in the fact that I did not pay £300 to go watch that, because I would have been utterly disappointed had I gone there, because it was a bit of a stinker. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough for me to say. I started watching straight after my 8-hour shift, so I got rewarded with with that card. But I will say, like, by the time I started watching, I got onto the dude. We just said his name now,
Baranowski.
Yeah, Baranowski. I came in for that one, so watching past there wasn't necessarily the worst. At least we had like Luke Riley and I guess the Leon Murphy also. The main card fight wasn't that bad, but yikes, dude! You were not happy about this card, bro. All I was seeing in the chat while I was at work. Wow,
dude, it was just like it was just a bit disappointing in terms of fight value. Like, to end off the prelims, we had Mason Jones against Axel Soler, which was an absolute war. Like, that was a good fight, and it should have honestly been on the main card. Like, I don't know how Baranowski against Austin Lane was on the main card, because that was the biggest layup fight. Everyone knew that Baranowski was going to finish this guy in quick succession.
Yeah.
So I think Mason Jones, Axel Soler should have been on the main card. And obviously the talk of the town was MVP against Sam Patterson, and just how shit that fight was. Like, and I haven't liked MVP since he's been in the UFC, because he's a decision maestro, and he does all these weird dances and showboating, which makes you think he's good and whatever. But at the end of the day, his fights are pretty boring, and he just goes to decisions. He hasn't had one finish in the UFC.
Yeah, and what did you make of the entire fight, like ignoring MVP's history? But I do agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it was a shocker. It was an absolute shocker. It was like 5-4 strikes in the first round, maybe like 9 to something in the second. Like, it was like almost like 20 or less strikes in the entire fight from either of them. And they're both to blame, because MVP was going for his natural style of keeping the distance and looking for counterattacks. And Sam Patterson obviously knew that MVP is the most dangerous when he's counterattacking. So Sam Patterson didn't want to be the first one to engage. So they're both to blame, because MVP could have initiated something instead of just trying to fight his normal style. And Sam Patterson could have gone for the takedown. Many people thought maybe a submission was coming his way, because MVP, I'm pretty sure against Ian Gary or something like that, like, was vulnerable with his back, like when Gary had his back. So I don't know, no shot from Sam Patterson, just a bit of cage holding. I think MVP's hard to get down, but all in all, there's no excitement value. They were both just dancing around the cage. But you're a casual if you didn't find that good, honestly. Like, if you couldn't appreciate just top level MMA that was going on there, you're just casual.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself completely agreeing. It's your classic styles make matchups. And we had two. I'm not sure how Sam Patterson generally fights, but to me it seems like he's a bit of a counter striker. So you had counter striker versus counter striker, which always just leads to this like weird stalemate where neither of them want to, like, they'll pop out the jab, they'll get it in your face, but they're obviously trying to lure you into a big combo which they can counter. But it just never happened. Neither guy was willing to throw. They both obviously trained with each other before, right? So they knew what each other was going to do. Patterson knew MVP, big counter striker. So like, you can see he was unwilling to really engage a lot of times, just like running away and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, is there really much more analysis than you can give than that? Just because that's all that happened the entire fight. You know, there was nothing
Yeah,
really
no,
special. Even the clinch work, boring, 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 boring.
terrible. Patterson just like
So
I
yeah.
wouldn't necessarily say his specialty is counter striking because in his
Hmm.
last few fights he's gotten finishes, like he's quite aggressive. But I think because of how good MVP's counter striking is, and that is
Mm.
what he relies on, Patterson was like, well, I'm not going to engage. So shocking fight. Like it killed a bit of momentum because I'm pretty sure it was the next fight after Baranowski just flatlined Austin Lane. But then at least we had a bit of a savior in Luke Riley against Michael Aswad Jr. That was a good
Hmm.
fight. Luke Riley got a lot of holes in his game that were a bit exposed there,
Yeah.
certainly in the defensive end. But he's still good, and he knew that it wasn't a top tier performance from him. And I think it's just one of those fights where it's good 3 round experience, and it'll just make him a bit of a better fighter. But what did you
Hmm.
make of that one?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting fight. I thought that Aswell came out pretty strong. I thought um this fight was obviously a couple of days ago now, but if I remember correctly, I actually gave Aswell the first round. I thought that Luke like came into it on the latter half of the round, but Aswell was looking good. I think that he's got a great poker face. Like he doesn't react at all when you're hitting him or anything like that, or even when he's tired. Like it's hard to get like a read on this guy, which was pretty interesting. But I thought that Luke did grow into the fight. He was talking about how his speed is like a massive problem, and how Aswell's not going to be able to keep up. And I thought you saw that. I mean, he was hitting him with that check hook a lot. I remember that very vividly. Like bang, you know what I mean? Bang, you clipped him. Bang, clipped him. Bang, clipped him. That was pretty interesting to see. Like his speed really is there. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe not what Riley thought his performance was going to be, but he still edged it out, got the job done, and yeah, I think it was a solid performance.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Aswell is a really tough guy. Like he's had quite a few sort of wars on the contender
Mm.
series. He had a 3 round war, and he's a tough guy. He's got a good chin on him. So, like, not really surprising that he didn't go down. And I kind of agree with you. Honestly, watching it live, like I haven't watched the fight again, but watching it live,
Mm.
I did think Aswell did enough in the early parts of the first round to probably win it. But it's classic Luke Riley, like based on his Cage Warriors days, even he's quite a slow starter and then does get into the fight. Um, so yeah, pretty classic performance from him in that sort of
Mm.
aspect. But I definitely think like he's got to just make himself a little bit better. Not better, but like
Mm.
sharpen up his game in the defensive end, especially because a better fighter probably would have caught him and hurt him really badly in a few moments. But
Mm.
yeah, there's nothing like experience. And Michael Aswell, maybe not the top level fighter of the UFC, but he's certainly a good fighter
Yeah,
to fight against
interesting,
and to
solid.
test yourself. So see how Luke Riley bounces back and who he bounces back against.
Yeah, and then just one last thing on that. I remember like the social media side of things afterwards, and especially the commentators and like the social media posts and all of that. They were kind of making it seem like Riley was like destroying Aswell, like Michael Aswell. But I really did not think that that was the case. We mentioned now like how round one was close. Round two and three, I pretty certainly gave to Riley, but it was close. It wasn't like Riley dominated him and left Aswell in the dust. Like dude, a couple more combinations and X and such could have Michael Aswell pulling them away and winning that fight. But I just wasn't happy with the whole narrative that Riley destroyed him, because I don't think it was true.
Dude,
Not
I
sure what you
think
think about that.
if I know I agree, and I think if you watch a fight without the commentary, it'll
Mm.
almost certainly change your view on many fights because the commentary just they are just so biased. Like they'll pick a fighter, and it's usually the sort of the more hyped up prospect of the
Yeah.
fight, and the entire time they'll be talking about them, and then they'll put in there like, oh, but Aswell's landing a bit as well. But for the
Mm.
majority of the fight or whatever, like they're gonna talk about the most hyped up prospect. And yeah, obviously Luke Riley was doing better, but it's just classic commentary, and it's something I've started to notice more and more each week. Is they pick a fighter in the fight and they just absolutely glaze the shit out of them. Like everything they do is like, oh, look at the counters, look at his
Mm.
striking. He's so fast and he's so sharp, and like it pisses me off a little bit because it's like be a bit more neutral, seriously. But I mean, it's just something that happens. I don't think they necessarily mean to do it on purpose, but it is something that becomes more and more apparent as
Oh,
I'm watching these cards.
well, let me pose this sort of question to you, since we don't really have much to talk about today. But the UFC, right? Obviously, it's an entertainment business, and it's a sport and it's an entertainment business. Obviously, like there's a debate about which side it leans into more, and I would say in the past it was definitely more so about the fighters and the sport and who's the best MMA fighter, right? That was the UFC. Whereas these days, I feel like they like to sell a story more. They like to sell like a character or build people up into these mega stars and whatnot. And I think part of that comes with these fights where it's like there's obviously someone they want to win, like Riley in this case, and the Riley as well
Mm.
fight. They want them to win, and they want to build this guy up. This guy's a potential UK star, so it's way more beneficial to have like the commentary constantly glazing them, bigging them up, talking about how, oh my god, this guy could be a champ. You know, this guy's got all the potential. This guy, he's everything. And then when like it is like a competitive fight, like we had now, and they're just like constantly focused on glazing them the whole time. It's just like I don't know, this like narrative almost gets like ingrained into your brain where you're like, okay, Riley's winning, Riley's dominating, he's dominating, because that's all the commentators are saying.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess like my question is to you is like, what do you think about the possibility that maybe Dana is tuning the commentators and being like, hey, we want you to actually glaze these guys up a bit, build them up. You know, we want them as superstars. Like, am I being a conspiracy theorist here, or do you think there's maybe some
I mean,
validity in what I'm saying?
I don't really think there's ever like necessarily that wrong of a conspiracy if it has some value to it or like
Mm,
some
makes
depth to
sense.
it because I think there's probably a world in which Dana says that, or even if he doesn't necessarily say that, the commentators kind of know, okay, this is a guy that Dana and the UFC and Hunter and whatever are trying to push because they feel like
Mm,
he's got that star power. I mean, look at Sean O'Malley. Like
mm,
they know how hard they were trying to build him up, and if I remember correctly,
Bo
I'm pretty
Nichols.
sure. Yeah, but like I think in the Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong
Mm,
fight, it was very very close. But I'm pretty sure the commentary was just absolutely glazing O'Malley the whole time. So I think like Dana could be telling them, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, put a bit of
mm,
extra hype behind this guy, or
yeah.
they just naturally are like, oh, this is a big star, like let's hype him up. But I mean, also, then you've got these commentators who are used to be fighters, but they still train and stuff, so they know a lot of guys. Like
Mm,
DC is like loves that prospect Imanol Rodriguez, who just fought the other week and got a finish.
yeah.
How are you gonna have DC as a commentator and a fighter that he's literally nurturing to grow and
Yes, yes,
commentate
the guy who's in his
literally on
training
his
thing.
fights?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Mm,
like I think sometimes it's gonna naturally happen, and other times they probably do it on purpose. Like it's not like DC's gonna shit talk his own guy type
mm,
of thing. So I definitely think they do hype up certain people and they hype up people that aren't necessarily that good. And I guess that could come into our next conversation when we talk about Lerone Murphy and
mhm,
Movsar Evloev. We'll talk about the fight now. I'll ask your opinion on that. But
mm.
people are saying, is Jean Silva going to get the next title shot because people aren't happy with Evloev and how that fight went, and Jean Silva has more star power. But what did you think of the fight, first of all?
I actually thought it was a bit of a great fight. Like controversy aside, it was very interesting to watch. I mean, obviously, like Evloev not really shooting was
Evloev.
pretty Evloev. Sorry, I'll just
Evloev.
call him Mosa. I'll just call him Mosa, very honestly. Um,
Mozart. Like, you can't get either
Mosa,
of them right.
yeah, whatever,
It's
bro. Mosa,
Mozart.
um, dude, fucking Mozart Pevlev or whatever. Bro. This guy, this guy, he didn't really like shoot as much as we thought he was gonna do, which was
Mm,
like really impressive, I would say, in a sense, because when you have a pressure grappler, someone who's doing it consistently all the time and he doesn't do it in a fight, you're kind of like, whoa, like what's up here? Like, why not? And we'll get to that because there are reasons for it. But to just wrap up the short take, like I think it was a great fight. I was really interested to see it go down. It was the two top contenders. Personally, I think that this was the title contender fight. But we can talk about John Silver in a second. But what were your overall thoughts on that fight?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it was nice to see a different side to Evloev's game, but at the same time, it was also a bit like, what are you doing here? Like, you
Mm,
can't like
do agree.
your stand up looked decent, but it wasn't that good. And if you look at like kind of round three, but round four and round five specifically, Evloev was getting those takedowns so easily on their own.
Mm,
So it was a bit weird that he didn't do that. And then if you want to go down the conspiracy route and you think, was Evloev sort of told either by his camp or by someone in the UFC, they're going to skip you for the title shot again if you don't make it a bit more entertaining. So he was like, I'm not going to shoot. But then he wasn't even that entertaining on the feet per se, you know? Like
mm,
it was a decent sort of back and forth, a little bit slow though. That's what I've seen a lot of people say, and I tend to agree that the fight was kind of in slow motion. Like it was just, I don't know, it was just a weird one. And like it's one of those things where I think Volk would destroy that version of Evloev that was fighting against
yeah,
Lerone. But what did you
I
think of the
agree.
scorecards, most importantly?
Um, Well, I think I'll give you my take on the fight first and then onto the scorecards because it kind of goes hand in hand. You kind of got to like know my opinion, I guess. So personally, I had Murphy winning that fight. I feel like most people did. Like, it's pretty tough. To actually give that to Evloev. Like, come on, bro. Got a point deduction. Like, realistically, how are you actually winning that? That's bullshit. But I'll give my scoring. So I had round one, two, and three for Murphy, and round four and five for that guy, bro. You know what I mean? Sorry, bro. I just struggle with the names. Uh, and then the point deduction also, so I technically had it like 3-1 for Murphy. So to see that, and to see the judges somehow score it like that was like insanity. It was really like insanity. It honestly, like, it felt like a slap in the face because it's just like, you guys aren't even trying. You know what I mean? Like, I can see a draw at maximum, but like to say that Mosa won that one, brother, like come on, I don't know. That's a bit outrageous. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting to see because like there's been so much debate and about who won what rounds, and people have
Mm,
differed on certain rounds. I think a draw would have been the correct scorecard because I think Murphy, in my opinion, won round one and two because it wasn't very active from either of them. But in terms of
mm,
just landing a bit more cleaner shots and being a bit more on the pressure and things like that, I think Murphy was doing more in round one and two. And then I had
I
three,
agree.
four, and five all for Mobzar. And then so then with the point deduction, it's a
Oh,
draw.
fair enough.
And I think I, I I can't confidently say one or the other won it, but I think I'm leaning more towards the fact that Mobzar won the last three rounds, but with the point
Fair
deduction
enough.
would make it a draw. I just don't see how you could have him winning four out of the five rounds because that's what they had. For him to win that with a point deduction means he
Yeah,
won
48,
four out of the
46.
five, 40, yeah, four out of the five rounds. And I just don't see how that is possible. Um, so I don't know. It was an interesting one. Then there was another conspiracy since we're enjoying this little theme for today that it was a
Right.
rigged fight and the judges didn't get the memo. That the memo was it was supposed to be a draw and John Silver was supposed to get the title shot because it was a draw, but the judges just didn't get the memo because the
Yeah.
point deduction was a little bit suspect. Like obviously it was a low blow, and I think it was the second low blow, but
It was the worst one of the two.
it was like, was it enough for a point deduction? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't know. It's just funny to think like
Mm.
the judges just didn't understand that Evloev and Murphy was supposed to draw on the night. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as the point deduction goes, the problem is it's not that Mark Otto took the point away. It was just more so like the lack of consistency. Like we've just seen it like many, many times where like sometimes three nut taps will go like with no deduction.
Mm,
Whereas this time, like it was okay, he had that one bad one, and then Evloev hit that second bad. Which one, like, okay, listen, it was pretty bad. Like it was straight cup, and he had been warned. So that's why, like, I was surprised when the point was taken away, but I wasn't necessarily like, wow, this is crazy. That how can they do this? Like it made sense. But I
Yeah.
think the main concern is just like there's no consistency really with it. You know, like if in another fight with a different ref, like the same exact situation could happen, and we probably wouldn't see a point deduction. And I think that's just like the real problem. I feel like I feel like it's an easy fix, right? If the UFC literally just said like, okay, if you not tap someone once and you get a clear warning, the next one will be a point deduction. I think that would like clear
Mm.
up a lot of stuff. But now it's just like it leads us to this place where we're just like pretty surprised. We're like, whoa, okay, this was pretty crazy. As far as the conspiracy theory goes, that is pretty funny. Um, do I actually think so? No, I think if I don't, you know, to be honest, I think the UFC doesn't actually care. Like if they want to give it to Jean Silver, they will. Like I don't
Mm.
even think they need like the bullshit excuse of like, oh well, they drew. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a clear cut winner now, and they probably might just go, nah, well, John Silver, we still want him anyways. Um, and like I guess that ties to another like the same question as earlier of like, is the UFC really even like that big of a sporting establishment anymore? And I'm not so like saying in like global reach. I'm also saying like, do they even really respect the rules anymore? Like, can you really justify giving this to John Silver the title fight? Like, it's like what? I don't know what his unbeaten streak is now, but he like did just beat the number one contender. Like, ah, God, dude.
Dude,
What do you think?
it can't go to Jean Silver. Like if it
It
goes
can't
to
go to
Jean
John
Silver,
Silver.
it's then the UFC is more gone than
Mm,
one could actually think. Like it literally cannot go to Jean Silver. Like he beat Bryce Mitchell, then he lost to Diego Lopez, and then he beat Arnold Allen. Like that is not what leads to a title shot, in my opinion.
mm,
And Evloev, as much as I kind of don't really like the guy and his inactivity pisses me off, like you can't
mm.
deny him the title shot now. Like you just can't. His resume is too good,
Yeah,
and
it's
he's beaten
stacked,
too
man.
many top contenders for you to ignore him. So it has to be him
Yeah.
for the title shot against the great Volk. Which would be an interesting fight. Like if it's that Evloev that shows up like he did against Murphy, I think Volk will steamroll him.
Probably just kill him, yeah.
Um, so I'd still be interested to see that fight, see how it plays out. And then Lerone can go and fight, I don't know, someone else in the
Yeah.
ring.
I find myself agreeing. So I think Volk versus Evloev is probably the fight to make. Although I will say, like, and maybe this is like me, like, being a little bit hypocritical, but like a fight against Johnson would be cool, like, undoubtedly. But if the UFC is still like trying to claim that it's a sport and not like pretty much a realistic WWE, then like everyone has to fight Volk, which I still think will be an interesting fight. I think it's a great legacy fight for Volk because if he beats him, then is there is there any really chat or any real chat against Volk as the GOAT of the featherweight division? Like, bro, like yeah, of course he lost to Topuria in like brutal, brutal fashion. Make no mistake. But besides that, he hasn't had a loss in the featherweight division.
I don't think
Maybe
so.
way earlier before he was even on that title run. Um, but I think that could really propel Volk into that go talk. You know, like kind of like undisputed. There's not
Mm.
really. Aldo would be the biggest contender, but you know this whole recency thing of
What
like the
about
recency
Connor?
bias. We're talking about greatest, not best. I think McGregor probably is the best flyweight, and maybe I am. I mean, not flyweight, featherweight, and maybe I am biased with my past affinities for McGregor, but I don't know. What would kind of fight would you like to see against Volk, and what are your thoughts on that whole Volk legacy talk?
I mean, honestly, I think Volk versus Evloev is probably more like a better matchup than Volk versus Silver. Like, I think
Hmm.
Volk steamrolls
Or
Jean
Volk?
Silver. Yeah, just in
Oh, you're
general.
just saying general,
Like
okay,
I just think
competitive
it's a better
matchup.
fight. Like Jean Silver's good and he's flashy and whatever, but
Mm,
Diego Lopez was obviously taking shots, but he kind of fucked him up. Like he got him on the ground and he cut him open with with the ground and pound, and then obviously
mm.
ultimately finished him. And I think Volk is intelligent. He's not as reckless as Diego, and he wouldn't get
Nowhere
caught with as
near.
many shots, and he'd work in grappling. And I think he'd steamroll Jean Silver. whereas Evloev is maybe a bit more of an exciting matchup in terms of just stylistically. And yeah, I agree. It's better for his legacy at this point to beat someone like Evloev, who's undefeated
Mm,
and who has beaten top level competition in the featherweight division. And I think then you kind of do have Volk as the featherweight goat. I think Topuria, if he had stayed in featherweight, probably would have ended up taking that title just because I just don't know who he loses to. But
yeah,
he only fought
actually.
once for the title, obviously, won it and then moved. So, well, no, he beat Max as well. But was Max
Yeah,
in featherweight? Was it? Yeah.
yeah.
And then so yeah, like I think if he fights Evloev and he beats him, in my opinion and in your opinion, which I think in a
Mm,
lot of people's opinion, he will be the sort of the undisputed featherweight. But maybe not undisputed because everyone's always got their opinions.
mm,
But I think in many people's eyes, he will be the featherweight goat. But we'll segue it into this weekend's card to talk about our last section because we don't have to make it too long because we don't have too much to talk about. And
cool.
obviously, and next week's card is a shit show. It's so bad.
Mm,
I'm not sure if you've looked at most of it, but we've got the
just a little
co-main of
bit, yeah.
Alexa Grasso against Macy Barber.
Macy Pava,
We've
yeah.
got Michael Chiesa against Colston Harris, both unks. Julian Erosa, unk. And then
Yeah.
Yusri Bulgarui against Mansour Abdul Malik might be all right. And then obviously Terrence McKinney, Carl Nelson, probably just be a first round finish for Terrence McKinney. That's just what he does. But
Mm.
on the whole, pretty ass card. But main event, Israel Adesanya, Joe Pyfer, Joe Pyfer, I don't even know. But
What's your thoughts? Give me the rundown.
is the body cam getting turned off for Joe Pyfer? That's the question. Is the body cam getting turned off, and is he committing murder in the octagon? Because
Damn.
I
What
think
you got?
I think Adesanya is obviously the better. Like he's the better mixed martial artist, and I have him winning this one. I don't know why, but I just don't think he's going to get knocked out by Joe Pyfer. I just don't really
Damn.
see it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty interesting one because obviously Adesanya coming off like what, 2 fight loss, right? It was Dricus then Imavov, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think
Yeah.
he's got any fights since then. Um, and 2 fights where he got finished, got destroyed by Imavov. So obviously coming off
Mm,
on a weak run of form. A lot of people are starting to get that unk talk in there, like past his prime. Although, if I remember, even Adesanya has said that, like, yeah, the belt is sort of out of the conversation. So
yeah.
he just wants to do cool fights now, which is pretty telling, I suppose, like on his ability and stuff like that. Like, how often do you actually see a UFC fighter be like, yeah, no, like I'm not looking for the title right now,
Mm,
to showing that he's past his prime. Although Pyfer, it's not like Pyfer really got anything either. Bit of an unk fight, like Grandpa League fight, I would say. Like, could go either way. I guess it sort of depends on how shit Adesanya is, if that makes sense. Just because he's
How
coming off these
washed
two
he is.
losses. Exactly. It's like we don't actually know where he's at right now. Like when these fighters go on these like big declines, it's hard to like really baseline them and then like try predict their next fight, just because like they're just in such shit form. So it's one of those ones where maybe Adesanya outpoints Pyfer, or maybe Pyfer gets that big knockout. That's probably how I see it going. Although a decision lost for Adesanya isn't even out of the cards either. I guess I
Mm,
guess I'm giving you a very, very broad answer and like Fed City answer. If I had to pick someone, I've always hated Adesanya, so let's just go for Pyfer. Pyfer by nuclear knockdown. I reckon he's just gonna smash Adesanya. What do you think?
yeah, I don't know. Like Joe Pyfer's um, resume is pretty average to me. Like he's
Mm,
beaten Gerald Mearshart, and then he's had a loss to Jack Hermanson, and then he's decisioned Kelvin Gastelum, and he's submitted a Boost Magomedov. Like
mm,
that's an old Kelvin Gastelum, and a Boost Magomedov is shit.
yeah.
So I just don't find that he's like faced top level competition. And obviously, this is now quite an old Adesanya, like past his prime Adesanya. But I don't know. Like, yeah, obviously Imavov knocked him out, but I don't see Pyfer just landing that big like power punch. And I can't necessarily see him taking him down and out grappling him for a submission. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, who knows? Anything can happen. Who knows what type of fighter will show up on the night from either side. But I can just see Izzy just being a bit more intelligent and I don't know, maybe not being so reckless, but it's tough. It's tough. I'm excited to see him fight again. Like, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I do find him a bit of a knob, but I do like watching him fight.
Yeah,
He does have a
definitely.
cool kickboxing style, long, rangy.
Super technical, yeah.
I think he'll just be a bit better, a bit too good for Joe Pyfer. But who knows, dog? Like, maybe Pyfer's going to end his career on Saturday night. Like,
maybe, bro.
Maybe it's just the way it's
bit of
going
a
to go.
tough one.
But in terms of, I think Adesanya is probably the underdog at the moment in terms of betting perspective. So might be worth putting something on that just to see.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, like, dude, you know, like he lost one fight before he literally just challenged for the title. You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm meant to believe that Pyfer with what you said, a knockout win over Gastelum and a sub win over.
No, decision over Gastelum.
Decision over Gastelum and a sub over
and then a sub over
like
Abus Magomedov.
Really, you know me, I don't get into my betting or anything like that. But if I were to bet, then if Adesanya were an underdog, I would be eyeing that one up. I feel like Adesanya by decision.
No, sorry, Joe Pyfer is actually the underdog. It's close.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. So, like, if I had to bet on this, it'd either be Adesanya by decision or Pyfer by knockout. I think that Izzy is desperate to not get finished again 3 times in a row, so he's just going to scrape this to a win. Maybe Pyfer, on the other hand, senses blood in the water. He's like, well, he has been finished in his last 2. If I really put the pressure on, maybe I can find his chin and just send Izzy probably into retirement. Bro, if Izzy loses this one, then like
could be tickets for him. How old is he?
Probably like 34, 33?
36. So I mean, he's getting towards the end of his fighting age, definitely.
Sure.
So I mean, if he gets knocked out on this one, I think it's going to be tough for him to like lay down the gloves. Though I think he'll find it hard to retire, especially on like another loss. But it's crazy. Like this is like a BJ Penn type of losing streak or a Jose Aldo losing streak. Like he's just, the decline has been insane, and it's all because Alex Pereira just put him out.
Nah, it's actually because of Dricus, bro. Dricus, I think, you know, he choked Adesanya out. He lost some brain cells after that one. And he just Dricus essentially stole his greatness, bro.
He stole his aura.
Stole his Africanness, bro. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be an interesting one. I do think this is probably the deciding fight for Adesanya. If he loses this one, I think he'll decide that the next fight will be his retirement fight. But if he wins, then who knows, really? It'll be
maybe a layup. Maybe a layup fight to end the career, get a win, and just
maybe.
Get out the door.
Maybe they'll throw Gastelum, bro. Honestly, on the reload.
No, we can't have that rematch, bro. Gastelum is so old and shit now.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if Adesanya got like brutally KO'd Pyfer if they just threw him and Gastelum in the ring. Like, just do whatever, bro.
Just have a fight, bro.
Yeah.
Adesanya against Colby at middleweight. Colby goes up.
No. Did you see? Bo Nickel's been calling him out. So I think if Colby moves up,
apparently Colby's been bitching out of that.
Dude, it's so obvious. Because like Bo's like now publicly said like, all right, cool. If you want to like move up and do this fight, then we can do it. And then Colby the whole time was like, nah, bro, like you never sent me anything, no contract. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it if you said it. And then Bo was like, okay, well, like let's do it now. And now,
silence from Colby.
Oh, bro, that
Robbie's favorite fighter, bro.
Dude, the biggest joke right now in the MMA community. Like, it's a bit like McGregor. Like, I don't even think he'll actually come back. I think he's always talking, but like, who the fuck is he actually gonna fight?
So, some unranked guy, bro. Gatekeeper Covington.
It's probably like some Mexican oak, bro. They can sell like the international rivalry or something.
But to be fair, like he's one of those guys that's probably costing so much per fight, anyways, on the roster. It's like just get rid of him. Just send him on his way. Like why?
The UFC are probably like that.
We don't
We're
need
probably
Colby
like, dude, we
Covington
don't
anymore.
care. Yeah.
We don't
There's no more
need
Usman
Colby
for him to fight.
Covington.
We'll see, bro. I guess we'll
We'll
see.
see. But yeah, that just about wraps it up. I mean, nothing really to talk about. Anything else than that? We don't know when we'll be back. To be honest, guys, it's a busy time for the boys.
It's tough. It is tough right now.
I'm going on holiday next week, anyways, for like 3 weeks or whatever, 2 weeks. So that probably rules out any future podcast for the next week or two, anyways. Because I ain't gonna be working on holiday. But we'll see how it goes. Picks this week went good though. 11-2, only got 2 wrong.
Nice.
So that's good. We up to, hang on, what are we on quickly? Just to wrap it up, let me just flex a little bit. 72-31 on the year. That's what we're on the year. So
that's pretty flat.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll see if we can keep that hot streak going. Yeah, I'm a bit bleak this week's card, a bit ass, but what can you do?
Is what it is. At least the Arsenal game's on, bro. Keep the sport pumping. Keep it consistent,
Arsenal, bro. Sunday was ruined.
Dude, I'll say this on the pod, bro. So I watched it with my girlfriend, just for the pod's sake. I watched it at my girlfriend's place, and I only packed my Arsenal shirt with me for the next day because I was so consistent we were gonna win. So like, I had to rock up to uni the next day in my like retro Arsenal kit. And I was like, you know what, bro? I was like, I'm proud. I'm a Gunner, bro. I expect to see me now wearing the Gunner shirt on campus when we lost. So when they see me wearing it after we win that Prem, that they know that I'm around. They know who was around, bro, who was back in the
proper,
team.
Hey, rocking the Arsenal shirt after we lose is absolutely
on campus. I did want to shoot myself, bro. I was just like a lapse in judgment. All right, I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube, bro. In a video game or whatever. But yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Well, respect, bro.
But yeah, thanks for watching. As always, Cam, is good to be back for another time. And not sure when we'll be back again, but keep your eyes open, gents, because we'll be back.
Make sure it's in the works, guys. You just don't know behind the scenes.
The cogs are turning, boys.
Yeah, stuff is happening behind the scenes. That's all you need to know. Okay.
All right, safe, brother.
Shut up, Brady.